From the Cronkite studios in downtown Phoenix, this is Cronkite News.
Phoenix could become the largest city in the nation to scrap recycling if rates aren't increased. We'll tell you what that means for the city's pockets and your wallets.
Plus, to recycle or not to recycle? That is the question. We'll break down what you're doing right and what you may be doing wrong when you sort your trash.
And the plastic epidemic that all environmentalists fear. How Arizona's very own prickly pear cactus could play a major role in saving the planet.
Cronkite News starts now.
Welcome to a special edition of Cronkite News Recycling Reductions. I'm Jennifer Alvarez.
And I'm Scotty Gange. Tonight, we're taking an in-depth look to changes to recycling happening across Arizona, including service reductions and garbage rate increases.
Also, why it's happening, what changes are coming, and what you can do. And we're giving you the chance to participate by taking our live news quiz. So grab your phone right now and play along.
We'll be asking 10 recycling quiz questions throughout the show so you can test your knowledge. Just type this URL into your phone to get ready. Vote.cronkite.live. That's vote.cronkite.live.
We'll start our news quiz in just a minute.
But first, let's catch you up on the latest. Right now, the city of Phoenix is considering increasing rates for recycling or even eliminating the services. That's because it's getting too costly to keep the programs going. Now, other cities across the state have already reduced recycling services or cut them entirely. Last week, the Public Works Department for Phoenix proposed 4 rate hike options. Just to keep recycling services would require a 24% increase in service rates. The other proposals all included rate hikes, but not by as much. Some would involve reducing recycling to every other week or eliminating composting services.
Now it's your turn. Grab your phone and go to vote.cronkite.live and join us for our recycling quiz.
We'll have 10 questions during our coverage, so again, you can test your knowledge. For each question, you'll have 15 seconds to decide, then we'll display the correct answer.
So the first question is, what is the percent of total waste recycled in the U.S. in 2017? The options are 13%, 21%, or 35%. You can cast your vote right now.
So how did we end up in this recycling crisis? While you vote, Jordan Evans will explain.
The story of recycling in America seems on the surface like a success, and according to the EPA, the percent of waste that Americans recycle has grown consistently and dramatically, from just 6% in 1960 to double digits by 1980, and then tripling by the year 2000. In 2017, we recycled nearly 1/3 of our waste. However, the economics of recycling have changed dramatically in the past 2 years, and that's the subject of our second question in the news quiz. Where has most of the recycling from Phoenix gone? So let's talk about the economics of recycling and how they have changed in the past 2 years. China once took 60 to 70% of the recycling from Phoenix, and they paid well for it too. In fact, the city of Tempe made over $500,000 off of their recycling. But now, since January 2018, China has significantly reduced the waste it accepts and the rates it pays. In Phoenix, take a look at how much the revenue from recycling has plunged in the past few years, from $13 million all the way down to $3 million. Smaller communities in Arizona have been among hit the hardest, and that's why I went to the city of Surprise, where changes to recycling in this city may preview what lies ahead for Phoenix.
So he'll get that material and he'll push it back and up.
When you recycle items such as plastic water bottles and aluminum cans, they end up here at recycling plants across the valley. But not everything you put in your recycling bin makes it into these bales. Instead, they're ending up here.
The problem is more with people putting too much waste in their direction. Pretty much of all plastics ever created, only about 9% has truly been recycled. And most of it ends up in the landfills. It's meant to last a long time, it's durable, it's inexpensive, so that's why it's created on such a massive scale, and it's just been increasing since the 1950s.
So when non-recyclable materials are fed into this facility, it comes at a cost because all of your items are sorted manually.
Contamination is absolutely a problem. So we as residents are contributing to this grand challenge in recycling right now. Contamination is enough of a problem that it's not only causing us to pay, but causing us to pay a lot.
As of August, Surprise decided to suspend its program because of this reason. But before that, the cost of recycling was already getting expensive when China imposed bans on plastic waste in 2018. A recent study published in Science Advances says nearly half of all of the imported plastic waste globally since 1988 will be displaced by 2030. That's equivalent to about 111 million metric tons.
They're expecting to get this, this delivery of plastic, and they get a bunch of trash mixed in, it becomes a problem. And why would they want to keep buying it if then it takes extra manpower and extra hours to be able to separate all that stuff out and then move on with the recycling process?
What was one problem has now evolved into two. Because China was receiving contaminated plastic waste, this has now created a much larger surplus here domestically.
It's hard to argue with the economics for some cities and towns that are small, that don't have resources. It's a big bite out of the budget now. We used to make about $600,000 off of our recycling, and now we lose about $500,000. It's $1 million swing.
Lauren Kuby with the city of Tempe says the city is struggling to keep its recycling program alive. So far, 4 cities in Arizona have suspended their programs completely, and several others are making huge cuts.
One of the advantages of pushing pause, like what we did, is this grabbed residents' attention. And so on social media and in person, residents are saying, what can we do to get recycling back? What can we do to make it work?
So for now, residents of Surprise can drop off their recycling at the Northwest Regional Landfill on Saturday mornings, and that's where it will be processed in a material recovery facility. Gent says until cost-effective solutions are identified, check with your city's website for information on what you can and cannot go in your curbside bin.
If I could explain 3 things, it's don't throw any plastic bags or any wrappables, we call them. If you are using a recycling container, make sure that you put your recyclables in loose, and try to use the internet to educate yourself on the items that are best being recycled right now.
In Surprise, Arizona, Jordan Evans, Cronkite News.
Contamination increases the cost of recycling and reduces the total amount of waste that can be reused.
And that brings us to our next question in the news quiz. Question 3. What is the annual estimated extra cost to sort contaminated recycling in Phoenix?
Is it $100,000, $500,000, or $1 million? Cast your vote now at vote.cronkite.live.
Melanie Porter is joining us now to show us some of the most important do's and don'ts when it comes to sorting your recycling correctly.
The city of Phoenix estimates that contaminated recycling costs an extra $1 million a year in sorting time, mostly due to plastic bags like these, which can't be recycled. And in general, don't put your recyclables in a plastic bag in your bin. Other ways we contaminate our recycling is with boxes that have food left in them, like this pizza box. And cereal boxes can be recycled, but their plastic liners cannot. Cardboard boxes can be recycled if they're free of food, but they do need to be broken down before you recycle. And all that junk mail you get can be recycled. The general rule for paper, if you can rip it, you can recycle it. Glass cans and jars can be recycled, but make sure the tops are removed. Aluminum cans and bottles can also be recycled, as well as juice and milk cartons, and hard plastic bottles. Sorting your recycling accurately is the biggest thing you can do to keep recycling costs down and maximize what gets reused. In Phoenix, I'm Melanie Porter, Cronkite News.
These guidelines are from the city of Phoenix, so check your local services to get the exact rules where you live. Now let's move on to the next question in our news quiz. Food waste makes up the largest share of waste in U.S. landfills. But what's the second largest source? Is it plastics, paper, or metal? Just go to vote.cronkite.live to cast your vote again. That's vote.cronkite.live.
Here are 4 things you can do to help recycling efforts. First, experts say the best strategy is to reduce and reuse as much as you can. So, use reusable shopping bags to avoid plastic bags. Second, buy used or reusable items when you can. Third, look for products that use less packaging. And finally, number 4, when you do recycle, sort carefully.
And that brings us to our final question in the news quiz. The increase in plastic waste in the U.S. since 1990. Is it 38%, 71%, or 106%? Cast your vote now. So do you know that now plastics now make up the second largest form of waste at landfills? But as Jordan Elder reports, researchers may have quite the solution. She shows us how juice from Arizona's very own prickly pear cactus could play a major role in combating the problem.
It might seem hard to believe, but the future of these plastic bags might lie in prickly pear cactuses. America wastes a lot of plastic, and especially at the grocery store. Shoppers use almost 1 plastic bag per resident per day. And it's not just these plastic bags, it's bottles too. In 2015, Americans purchased about 346 bottles per person. That's almost a bottle a day. And this problem keeps growing. Less than 1/5 of all plastic is recycled globally. But there might be a new recipe to solve this plastic problem. Engineers in Mexico are beta testing a new chemical formula with cactus juice as the main ingredient. It was created by Sandra Pasco Ortiz, a chemical engineering professor at the University of the Valley of Atemajac in Zapopan. Juice is extracted from the cactus and mixed with additives that make it feel more like the plastic bags we're used to. Then it gets rolled out and dried. The whole process takes about 10 days. These cactus juice bags take 2 or 3 months to break down in soil, and only a week if they're put in water or compost. Normal plastic bags may take centuries to decompose. Prickly pears are all over Arizona, so these bags could potentially be produced right here if the technology takes off. Several companies are interested in collaborating with Ortiz, who has already filed for a patent for this technology. For now, keep your reusable bags handy, but prickly pear plastic could make its way to your grocery store in the coming years.
So what's next? As we told you earlier, there are 4 proposals on the table that would bring big changes for trash and recycling in the city of Phoenix.
They include rate increases as well as recycling service reductions. The city plans to hold 10 open hearings to gather public input.
Cronkite News will have continuing coverage of the recycling hearings as they happen, so be sure to follow us on Facebook and Twitter and find us online at cronkitenews.azpbs.org.
Also, our public media partners here in Arizona and in California have a series of in-depth stories on the promises and failures of recycling programs across the western U.S. You can find that coverage and more sustainability stories on elementalreports.com.
Coming up next on Cronkite News at 5, are crime suppression sweeps on the Phoenix Light Rail going too far?
One Valley activist group says yes. We'll tell you how Phoenix police are responding to their claims of excessive force.
And environmental groups taking action tonight to stop dams from going in on the Little Colorado River. We'll tell you why when Cronkite News returns.
By the year 2050, there will be more plastic in the ocean than fish. Before Professor Halden, I had an insane amount of passion, but I almost felt helpless because I didn't know how to use it. Professor Halden gave me a chance to make a difference. Being at a place like ASU allows you to take these big leaps. Ultimately, the biggest problems in the world cannot be solved alone.
Welcome to another edition of Cronkite Sports Now. I'm Taylor Rocha. Let's talk sports.
For the latest on local sports and beyond, we've got you covered.
Let's do this thing.
We challenge reporters to go beyond, a game story. We want stories with depth.
It's just a crucial step from the college experience into the professional experience while you're still in school.
At Cronkite Sports Now, watch the journalists of tomorrow cover sports today.
What I really like about whether we're talking Horizon or PBS NewsHour is the fact it's not just one voice. We typically will get several voices talking, different viewpoints. So you're getting a good analysis of what's going on. We need good reporting, and that's what I depend on with PBS.
For more information about including Arizona PBS in your future plans, visit azpbs.org/giving.
I'm Jose Cardenas, host of Horizonte. Each week, we bring you experts and community leaders to discuss the issues that are vital to our community here in Arizona. We cover the stories that affect and inspire us and our families, and talk to the newsmakers who shape the communities where we live. Horizonte is your source and your voice for what matters most here on Arizona PBS.
I'm Judy Woodruff, anchor and managing editor of the PBS NewsHour. The journalists of tomorrow face a fast-changing media landscape, but quality news remains vitally important to our communities, our country, and our world. At ASU's Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communication, students learn solid, reliable reporting, holding the powerful accountable, and rebuilding the public's trust. The Cronkite School and Arizona PBS, preparing the next generation for a stronger future of journalism.
The Phoenix Police Department is responding to allegations that several of its officers used excessive force during a standard security sweep on the light rail. Cronkite News reporter Madison LaBerge has the body camera footage from the incident.
Please let go of my phone. The department sending Cronkite News body cam video showing the alleged incident. Last week, Mitzi Castro, a member of the grassroots organization Lucha, was detained and handcuffed after she refused to give officers her date of birth as they attempted to confirm her ride ticket was valid. In the video, you can see both her arms were restrained by officers while her phone was also taken away. The Phoenix Police Department says that Castro was one of about 750 people approached during the security sweep. They acknowledged she was handcuffed, but then released with a citation. Lucha is asking Phoenix PD to review its policies on the light rail. In Phoenix, Madison LaBerge, Cronkite News.
One of the largest coal-fired power plants in the Southwest officially went dark today. The Salt River Project shut down all 3 units of the Navajo generating station. For nearly 50 years, it operated just east of Page. The closure marks the final chapter in a 2-year fight to save the aging power plant and the affiliated Kayenta coal mine. Both provided hundreds of jobs in one of the most economically depressed parts of the state. And now, attention turns to decommissioning the plant. And developing now, the landscape near the Grand Canyon may be changed forever if a new proposal to build 2 dams on the Little Colorado River goes through.
Even though it would take years to approve and build, that isn't stopping conservation groups from taking a stand now.
Today, Earth Justice, on behalf of 6 conservation groups, filed a motion to have a legal say in deciding whether this hydroelectric project can move forward.
Pumped Hydro Storage filed a revised application this August to build 2 dams, 2 reservoirs, 1 powerhouse, and 6 turbine generators. The conservation groups argue that the proposed project would destroy the iconic turquoise water that flows in the Little Colorado River, ruin land that is sacred to tribes, and threaten the already endangered humpback chubfish.
These are just projects that are simply ill-advised, unreasonable, should not move forward under any circumstances. There's been kind of widespread consensus on the need to step in early and fight these projects vigorously.
The window for public comment on the proposed dams closes on November 22nd.
Hey, so in talking about water, Jordan, please tell us that it's going to rain soon. I heard that it's
tell
going
us
to.
We have some rain in the forecast.
Yes, there is good news in this forecast. In fact, hey, we're 52 days now without getting a drop in Phoenix. So we're going to get some rain, and those chubfish in the Colorado River Valley will also get some too.
Finally.
Here's a look at your forecast. Hey, 2 storm systems coming in back to back. We typically don't see this, so there's that force one coming up from the southwest. It's going to bring in some rich tropical moisture from the remnants of Raymond by tomorrow. So that's why I anticipate rain showers to fill in here for the valley as early as tomorrow evening. By the time we get into Wednesday night, that second one coming in from the northwest, and it's going to bring in some much cooler air with it. So that's why by the time we get into Thursday, we'll see some rain change to snow for some of those highest elevations across the state. And stay with us mainly throughout the day on Thursday. It's not until we get into the weekend when things begin to dry out and we quiet things down too. So here's a look at futurecasts. Clouds building in tonight. We'll stay dry overnight tonight as well. In fact, temperatures going to stay up too in the 60s, but rain showers begin to fill in for the valley by tomorrow afternoon and in the evening. So I would anticipate a wet commute tomorrow evening and for Wednesday morning too. Notice rain showers staying around the valley in areas up to the northwest. We might get a break in the day on Wednesday as those storm systems begin to merge, but by Wednesday evening, that second round begins to take over. In fact, heavy rain at times possible. By Thursday overnight, we see that cold front begin to take shape out to the east and much cooler air behind it. So we'll see that rain transition to snow for elevations mainly above 7,000 feet. And again, not clearing things out until we get into Thursday night. So flash flood alerts all for mainly across most of the state, all these green shadings there until about Thursday morning. We could see some of those get extended across the high country too if the rain lingers. But here's what the look at those storm details for the valley tonight, Tuesday afternoon and Thursday evening. That is our best 48-hour window. Rain could be heavy at times. times, in which we could see some minor street flooding, especially near washes. So you want to keep that in mind if you live in those areas. And rain amounts totaling from 1 to 2 inches across the valley, with isolated pockets of heavier amounts too. Across the high country, the best window for precipitation Tuesday evening through Friday morning, and rain changing to snow. Again, Wednesday night to Thursday for elevations mainly above 7,000 feet. If there's any accumulation, it's going to be more of a wet, compact snow, mainly on the grassy surfaces, but precipitation amounts will be high, anywhere from 2 to 4 inches across the higher terrain, because they provide a little bit of extra lift for those rain showers to form. In the meantime, though, enjoy a warm evening tonight. Look at the sunset taking shape out there near Litchfield Park, and temperatures at Sky Harbor in the 80s still, and dew points in the 20s. That number is going to go up by tomorrow, which means the air is going to get a lot more muggy. Here's your evening planner tonight. Temperatures falling off to the 70s and 60s throughout the evening tonight. High temperatures tomorrow will rebound a little bit below than what we saw today, with 70s here for the valley and areas out to the west, and 60s for places like Prescott, Sedona, and Payson, and 50s up in Flagstaff down along the rim too. Temperatures dropping across the state as we head throughout the rest of the week. In fact, notice here in the valley by Wednesday, we're down to the 60s, which means we have not seen that since March 14th. We have not topped out below 70 degrees since then. But hey, we clear things out by the weekend, drying things out, sunny skies, the Sun Devils back in action for Saturday. Scotty, I know you're a fan.
I'm a huge fan, and I'm so excited. Number 6, Oregon in town. And you know, you mentioned rain. The theme of Saturday is a maroon monsoon, so I'm fired up. Are we excited?
Absolutely, so excited.
Hey, I'm so excited. When I think about football, too, I think about Thanksgiving, and it's just around the corner. But as the holiday season arrives, so do certain challenges for children with autism.
After the break, see how families are dealing with common triggers their kids face during the festivities.
Join us each week on Catalyst, the show that explores new advancements, technologies, and innovations at Arizona State University that are shaping the future for tomorrow and beyond. Catalyst, Wednesdays at 9, right here on Arizona PBS.
With wildfires, a scarcity of water, and other environmental issues facing the Earth today, it's critical to stay up to date with local impacts of a changing climate. That's why we created Elemental, covering sustainability, a multimedia collaboration between public television and radio stations. From climate change to water conservation to renewable energy and much more, Elemental covers the latest in sustainability news. Find our stories on our website, elementalreports.com.
As journalists at Cronkite News, we report on stories that matter to you by focusing on the local impact. We dig deeper and work tirelessly to keep you informed.
Live in Wickerburg.
Live in Los Angeles.
In Cleveland. In Washington. In Louisville.
From Jerusalem.
Live in Philadelphia. From around the world to right here in Phoenix.
At Cronkite News, we report the facts and stick to the truth.
Across the U.S., about 1 in 59 children have been diagnosed with some form of autism spectrum disorder, and the holidays can be an especially challenging time for them and their families. Cronkite News reporter Quentin Walker gives us a little perspective on what it's like to handle these hardships and come out triumphant.
Autism spectrum disorder is a developmental disability that can affect how someone communicates and interacts with their surroundings. According to the Autism Society, sensory sensitivities are one of the hallmarks of the disorder. That means holiday activities and even decorations like Christmas lights and music can be overwhelming. I sat down with one Valley mother and her son to see how they prepare for the holiday season. Meet Connor. This unique 9.5-year-old likes cars, baseball, and Mickey Mouse.
You're gonna cheat? Yes.
What also makes Connor unique is that he is nonverbal. and has been diagnosed with autism.
He tries to express his feelings and his wants and his needs, and if we can't understand him, he gets very frustrated.
Because of his autism, holidays like Halloween and even Christmas can be difficult. Medical Director of the Center for Autism Research and Education, Sydney Schneider, explains every case is different.
The thing about autism is sometimes they're hypersensitive and sometimes they're hyposensitive to any given sensory input. So, for example, some children just crave light and others are just overwhelmed and find bright lights painful.
For Connor, sudden sights and sounds quickly become frightening, but with a little bit of persistence, even trick-or-treating is becoming more of a treat.
This year he kept wanting to go. He kept wanting to do more. He'd point to the next house and he would point down the street and he'd point to the other side and want to cross over from one side of the house to the other.
His mother, Carrie, hopes other families will continue to have patience with her son and keep an open mind.
Relax, you're okay.
After all,
one more.
No two children are the same.
Nice job.
There's a saying in the community that if you've met one child with autism, you've met one child with autism, because they're all different.
Common triggers include grocery store bell ringers, loud music, and bright lights. Carrie and Connor have a routine of preparing ahead of any big holiday, doing a run-through of the day together. Live in the Broadcast Center, Quentin Walker, Cronkite News.
Cronkite News is proud to be the news division of Arizona PBS. Here's what's coming up on Arizona Horizon.
On the next Arizona Horizon, we'll look at a national campaign to eliminate the gender pay gap. And a new exhibit at the Musical Instrument Museum features the sights and sounds of Central Africa. On the next Arizona Horizon.
That's it for Cronkite News tonight. Thanks so much for joining us.
For top Arizona stories anytime, go to cronkitenews.azpbs.org.